Right, we're live now, John. Thanks for joining us again today. I take it you're in London now for the big fight with Artur Beterbiev and Anthony Yarde, doing
Right.
some corner work with him. How's everything went, John?
Yeah, no, everything's good. We're here. We've been here for about a week, and everything's looking good.
hmm So how's preparation went, mate? And obviously, um, how do you see Artur Beterbiev as a fighter?
I mean, he's looking just like he always does. He always prepares 100%. He leaves no stone unturned. He takes care of every aspect of training, and we're good. I mean, we're ready to go for sure.
How did you first get to start working with Artur Beterbiev, John?
How did I start working with him?
Uh-huh.
Well, I've been with him for about almost 7 years, and basically they had called me in 2016. They wanted to bring someone in who had been a fighter and could kind of relate to Arthur on a fighter to fighter basis. And so I came in and kind of tried out, worked the pads with him, and everything was good. And I've been with him ever since.
Uh-huh. And did you know straight away just how talented he was, John?
Yeah, I mean, you could see his mentality from the first day. I mean, he's
Mhm.
super focused on his career. He's super focused on his training. He does everything. Like he leaves no stone unturned. And so it's been kind of in that regard, it's been easy to work with him.
Mhm. What's he like as a fighter to be around, and what's the sort of path that yeah, like that he wants to be taking? Because he has 3 world titles now at light heavyweights.
Right.
But is he bothered about the money fights, or is it just that undisputed legacy that he wants?
From what I gather from talking to him, he wants to be undisputed. That's his
Mhm.
big thing. He never mentions money, to be honest. I've never
Mhm.
talked to him at all about money. He's just he wants to be the undisputed champion, and that's always been his goal from the very beginning.
Mhm. Got a comment here. Some Anthony Richards says going to be a savage battle with Yard this. So what do you think about Yard? Because I've seen some people like sort of criticise the fight, even though it's a mandatory. But for me personally, I think Anthony Yard's a very, very dangerous fight for anyone at 175 pounds. How are you approaching this, John?
Yeah, I mean, he's very fast and he's game. Arthur takes every fight seriously. He could fight somebody's grandmother and he's going to train 100%. He's going to get ready. He will never ever take anyone lightly. So that's not going to be a factor at all. We're taking it very serious, and I know that Yard he's in his hometown. He's very fast. He's got some good experience now, and he really wants this fight apparently, but he's going to get it.
What do you think about some of the comments that's been made by Yard, where he said that like Beterbiev's slow and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was kind of a stupid thing to say. I don't think Arthur's slow. I mean, Arthur's
Mhm,
and his timing. Arthur's timing is brilliant, is world
mhm,
class, and timing is a lot more important than speed. I mean, Marcus Brown was very fast, and it didn't help against Arthur. So having somebody faster than him didn't make a difference.
I watched Arthur's last fight and against Joe Smith Jr. And like honestly, the timing, the movement was unbelievable. Was there like a different strategy for Joe Smith Jr.? Because like
Yeah,
that's another massive puncher.
right. Well, that's the thing. Arthur's very smart, and he knew that he was a big puncher, but he also knew Joe was a big puncher. So a lot of guys that are big punchers, they make the mistake of going in just guns blazing, not respecting the other guy's power. But Arthur obviously took his time, and even though it only went 2 rounds, Arthur took his time and he set things up and he let Joe come to him more and run him into some good shots. So I think Arthur in that fight showed how smart he technically really is.
Oh, he definitely did, mate. And like Arthur's like 37 now, and like the other champion, I suppose you've got like Dimitri Bivol, and you've got Canelo Alvarez still chomping at the bit a little bit. Um, do you think that maybe like other promoters and fighters are trying to like wait till Arthur gets old because they're scared of the fight?
Yeah, of course. Of course. They're trying to wait him out. And, but the thing is, Arthur's very smart. He's very dedicated. And, even though he's in his late 30s, he's like a much, much younger man. He takes unbelievable healthy care of his body. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't go to parties. He doesn't do any of that. So he constantly stays in shape. So he's a very, very young man despite his age.
I like when you watch him, he still looks so fresh.
Right.
I think that, like, if I'm not mistaken, has he fought Sergey Kovalev twice in the amateurs
Yes, he did. Yeah.
and beat him on both occasions?
Beat him on both occasions. Yeah.
Did he ever have any experience with Dimitri Bivol, like being from the same sort of country and everything?
Yeah, they sparred with each other, getting ready for, I don't know if it was the Olympics or the World Championships, but they sparred with each other. Yes.
And what's like Arthur said? I know he's a man of few words, but like, what was his thoughts about Bivol?
As I recall, we talked about it, and he really didn't make a big deal about it because he said that he was too strong for Bivol and he kind of took it easy on Bivol. So it wasn't like, really tough sparring because he felt like he was a little too much for Bivol at that time. So he didn't really take much from it.
And I've been watching a lot of like Artur Beterbiev's older fights because he fought at heavyweight as an amateur quite a bit.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you think about maybe the future moving up to cruiserweight? Is that a possibility, or has that not been mentioned?
It's never been mentioned. I honestly, I don't think so. I mean, he makes 175. He doesn't have to really kill himself or anything to make the weight. So I never heard anybody in camp say anything about cruiserweight at all.
Have you ever seen him like spar bigger fighters or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I've seen him spar guys that weigh 215, 220 pounds for sure.
And as a coach, when you're like padding him and stuff like that, like what do you think of Arthur's power and stuff like that, mate?
Yeah, no, he's very, very solid. Like he lands full force. He's very accurate with his punches. So and and obviously on the mitts, everybody lands every punch.
Oh, yeah, we've lost John for a second there. I'll wait around, see if hello, John, you're back. We've got you back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just lost you there when you were talking about Arthur's power. What were you saying there, mate?
Yeah, I was saying no. He's a very obviously a heavy-handed puncher. Very accurate with his punches. His connect percentage is pretty high. Like he doesn't miss a lot of punches. So he's giving a lot of damage out repeatedly every round.
And where would you sort of place Arthur pound for pound, John, at the minute? Personally, just as your coach and as like a boxing journalist and stuff.
I mean, I would think, he's high level, right? He should be higher ranked. People, I think, when they think of the pound for pound, they think of guys who are slicker and faster and flashy. You have to understand the intricate details of boxing and how good some of these guys are, even though they're not particularly flashy. Arthur's not really a flashy guy, but he gets the job done. And with that kind of power, I mean, if you take him and anyone else and put them in the same weight class, Arthur's still going to have that huge power advantage over any of these guys.
Well, with a lot of like the slicker, flashier guys, a lot of the stuff they have is like natural athleticism. But like when you watch some of these Russian guys like Artur Beterbiev, Golovkin, they just look workmanlike, but there's really a lot of skill into what they're doing if you know what you're watching, like the footwork and stuff.
For sure. Arthur, I think when he when he fought his last two fights with Marcus Brown and Joe Smith, I think Arthur's technique was off the charts, super high level. And if people really know what they're looking at, they would understand that.
We've got a good question here from Six Style, who says, "Who's the best coach you've ever seen, Jon?"
Man, see, it's a tough question because there's a lot of intangibles that go into making a great coach, right? Like I think Angelo Dundee. I've never seen Angelo Dundee in the gym. I've never been in the gym with him. I don't know how he trains guys, but I know how he is in the corner. I saw him in the corner, and his corner work was brilliant, like super high level. So I would take Angelo Dundee as a very good trainer because his boxing mind was high level. Same thing with Emmanuel Stewart. Again, I've never seen these guys up close in the gym, but when I go by their corner work, Emmanuel Stewart and Angelo Dundee always stood out to me.
Interestingly, that we're talking about coaches and we've just been talking about slick styles and boxers and stuff. Roy Jones Jr., who I'm sure you know quite well, like you were sort of on the amateur scene when he was around, one of the most naturally gifted fighters ever, but his coaching abilities just come under criticism a little bit after the Chris Eubank fight on the weekend. What do you make of all of that and Roy as a coach, Jon?
To be honest with you, I didn't see the fight. So I'm not really familiar with I know the end result, but I didn't hear any of the corner work or any of that. So I can't really say on that one. I'm not sure.
I don't think it was so much the corner work that was criticised about Roy. I think it was more just that that people were saying that Eubank doesn't look the same, or the style of the way that he's fighting doesn't suit him. Right. But who knows? I think he looks like he's a little bit over the hill, but I hope he gets back to his best.
Right.
Did you see much about the controversy with Conor Benn and the drug scandal and everything? And did you make much of that, Jon?
Yeah, I mean, so many guys I think are doing the steroids. I think it's a really big thing in our sport now, whether people want to admit it or not. I'm definitely not a fan of it, and I don't care if these guys get caught beyond the shadow of a doubt. I don't care if they get banned for life, because it's dangerous. You start playing around with performance-enhancing drugs. It could be very, very dangerous in there when you're boxing with someone.
Well, ironically, right, obviously, Conor Benn's father, Nigel Benn, was involved in a tragedy in the ring, and Chris Eubank Jr. and Sr. have both been involved in ring tragedies. Right. Have you ever been around any that's related to drugs, Jon?
Not related to drugs necessarily, but I've seen at least 3 tragedies up close that I've dealt with. I was there when Pritchard Colon got hurt in his fight. I was there when Bobby Tomasello died from injuries from his fight. I was at another fight when a guy was in the dressing room with me, and I didn't realize he was falling into a coma while I was standing right next to him. He was laying on the couch. I thought he was just resting, and I didn't realize. I left and I actually said goodbye to him, and he kind of mumbled something, and a couple of days later he was in a coma. Yeah.
Speaking of great trainers, Eddie Futch, one of the best ever, had a controversial incident relating to this sort of stuff when with the thriller in was it the last one, the thriller in Manila?
Yeah.
when he threw the towel in, and he always defended his decision to do that because he said he'd had 3 fighters die in the ring, and he explained the circumstances behind it all and everything like that. And he sort of got into that. And like that's why he said that he thought the time was right to throw the towel in for Joe Frazier. But it's for me with the drugs and everything. When people's taking drugs, I think like, do you think that there should be like an international governing body or something to ban people, or how do you think it should be dealt with?
Yeah, I mean, we're not hard enough in sports, even in other sports.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, punish these guys nearly hard enough. I think that, if you're going to be real, it's like, I'll give you an example. If they said in America, if they said, okay, if you steal a candy bar, we're going to put you to death, right? You steal a candy bar, that's the death penalty. Well, guess what? Nobody's going to be stealing candy bars. You know what I mean? They're going to leave it alone. And, these guys, I think they know that they can get away with using steroids. It's been proven that people have gotten away with it, and they've still been treated as big stars. So I don't think our ramifications, our punishments are not strong enough at all.
I completely agree because, I mean, in the case of Conor Benn, personally, it feels like he's trying to get out of what's happened with lawyers and stuff like that. And like with Conor Benn, he's failed 2 drugs tests for like a drug that you take after a steroid cycle to kickstart your own testosterone back in again. And I really have seen a rapid improvement in Conor Benn from being like a novice journeyman boxer to his skills aren't really world class, but his power and speed and everything like that is just like phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes things are what they are. I mean, if you think you see something, you probably do see something. And, I think if it's very obvious, sometimes things are so obvious that people can't see it. Obvious.
Yeah. It's true. And it's the thing is, what's a bit sad about all of this is that, like, sometimes when you see these fighters make rapid improvements, right? Do you just put it down to steroids? Because sometimes there genuinely is a lot of good fighters who just work hard in the gym, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. I mean, we don't know, but like I say, people have failed drug tests and not been even really punished. So that sends a bad signal. That sends a bad precedent. You have to drop the hammer on some of these guys and really let them know that there's a punishment. But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. We've got a viewer who's commented saying Beterbiev is a handful in that division. If he beats Yarde, he should fight Bivol. Yeah. Now, the thing is Bivol's talked about moving down to super middleweight to fight Canelo, which, given what's just happened with Eubank Jr. and moving up and down weights, it's not normally a good idea. I don't think moving down a weight once you've moved up and settled at a weight.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like Beterbiev's next move if he does win?
Yeah, I mean, I think moving down in weight after a certain age is a very bad idea. And you can point to Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Chad Dawson, Roy Jones, Oscar De La Hoya. They all did it, and it was all terrible. Sugar Ray Leonard did it. It was terrible. They've proven that it's not a good idea. So anybody, once you reach about 30 years of age, you shouldn't be going down in weight class.
Well, were you part of Chad's team when he moved down in weight and fought Andrea Ward?
Yeah, and it was a horrible mistake. Horrible.
Because I remember in the build-up of that, I heard like rumors that he'd been knocked out by Edison Miranda and stuff like that, and I was just thinking, why has he agreed to this? But sometimes fighters, they just see the pound notes, don't they? They see the dollar signs, as you'd say in the States.
I mean, The truth is, when that fight was made, they said, okay, we're going to fight at 168 pounds. And I asked his strength coach the same day. I said, listen, between us, can he really make 168 pounds? And he told me, yeah, it's no problem. He's going to make it. It's going to be good. He's going to be strong. And he didn't. It was horrible. I was there. I kept track of everything and the weights and the dates and everything. And it was horrible how he had to make weight for that fight. I mean, we trained for 9 weeks, and the last night before getting on the scale, he had to lose 7 pounds. After 9 weeks of training, he still had to lose 7 pounds on the last night. Killed him. So it wasn't a good idea at all.
Wow, that's just crazy. Did you say 7 pounds in the last night?
In the last night, yeah.
And it's the last few pounds, one of the hardest pounds as well, isn't it?
Right. And he had to lose 7 of them.
How do you think, like, when obviously you must have been around camps like that where it's not went right and camps where it's went really well? How do you think that like weight should be made perfectly? Like, when do you think you're with a fighter who's made the weight perfectly? How's it done?
See, the thing is, it's making weight is like a lifestyle. It's not too many guys make weight for a fight. They make weight every fight. Whereas you get a guy like Bernard Hopkins, he was on weight all the time. He made it he was a professional, and he made it his business to be within striking distance of the weight. Where other guys, most guys, just eat and do whatever they want. And I did it too. Same thing. We eat and we do whatever we want. And then when the fight comes up, we try and make weight. Whereas Bernard set the precedent for being a professional and keeping his weight proper between fights. And I think people could learn from him, but they don't.
Funnily enough, with Mayweather and Pacquiao, they were always, at least in the welterweight days, within striking distance of the weight all the time. They pretty much, they weighed in at about 145 and come in about 147, didn't they?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And like, I just think a lot of fighters seem to think that they're getting an advantage by being a stone or two bigger than the opponent when they rehydrate. Right.
But it's not, it's actually not an advantage. It's a disadvantage. And I'd rather be lighter but feel good than be heavier and feel sluggish. You know what I mean? So I think guys that are lighter, you could if you fight at 160 and you weigh in at 157, if you're a small middleweight, that would be better because you'd be able to eat properly than being a big middleweight who has to suck down to 160.
Since we last talked, Jon, there's been a lot of talk. Like there's a lot happened at the heavyweight division with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and stuff. And I suppose at the same time, a lot that hasn't happened. Some of the fights that you'd like to see. What do you think about the current heavyweight scene? And I know Anthony Joshua has been out in America looking at different trainers. What do you think you'd do with him as a coach, mate?
I think, honestly, Anthony Joshua doesn't need a boxing coach. He needs a guy who's good psychologically, like a mental coach. You know what I mean? Somebody who can reach him, because I don't think his problems are boxing problems. I think it's his mentality, and I think he's weak to a certain degree, and he's trying to find somebody to fix him. But he thinks it's a boxing thing that needs to be fixed, and I don't think so at all. I think it's very clear that mentally he's lacking in a certain way, and he needs someone to fix that part of his game.
Yeah, probably, mate. I've heard a few people saying that there's a hole in his mentality, but sometimes I think fighters just fall out of love with the sport. They haven't got the hunger there anymore. Do you think it could be that?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the problem. When a guy, and this has happened before, it's not just him, but when a guy loses and then he goes to look for another trainer And then he loses with that trainer and he goes to look for another trainer. Well, guess what? You're the problem. It's not the trainer, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the common denominator, and I think he's afraid to face that it's him, that he needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Not a trainer. He doesn't need a new trainer. He needs a new him, a new mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And most trainers aren't going to be able to fix that because they're going to go and try and fix his boxing skills, which don't necessarily need to be fixed. It's his mentality that,
Mm-hmm.
he did all that he did. I mean, look how good he was. And he did all he did. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. Now all of a sudden his trainer's not good anymore. I mean, come on. That's a lot of fighters have done that. And they're wrong. And I say it like it is. They're wrong. He's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He should have stayed with his first coach, and they should have fixed him, fixed his head.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And do you know, like, touching back on Dmitry Bivol moving down, do you think that's a little bit similar to what Chad Dawson did against Andre Ward?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the kid, Dimitri's getting older. He's not. We're all getting older every day. He's not getting younger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know if he's trying to get away from Artur or what, but I don't think I think it's been proven. And like I say, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Roy Jones, Chad Dawson. The list is endless of guys who have tried it and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Do you know with Chad Dawson, after the move, when he came back up, do you think he was the same? Because I don't think he was quite this. I thought that took something from
not
him.
at all. He was. Once you lose weight at that age, you lose the muscle, and then you take a fight where you take abuse, like Roy Jones against Tarver, psychologically, chemically, whatever it is, physiologically, you're damaged, and you're never going to be the same. Yep.
Have you ever seen like what was it like with Chad after that? Like when he was like back in the gym, was he? What did you think?
I wasn't with him after that. We
Were you
weren't
not?
together after the Ward fight. We went our separate ways.
Because I personally really did think that Chad was like in a similar position to where like Bivol is now. But actually, at the time, I would say Chad was probably like the best light heavyweight in the world. I don't think there was anyone like up there with him at the time. I mean, there was Hopkins who he beat, and Hopkins went on to be a champion for quite a long time, didn't he? After that,
yeah, he sure did. Yeah.
So like maybe that's what like I think Eubank maybe's making this silly catchweight with for the Conor Benn fight is maybe's what's took something out of his punch resistance because I don't know if you've ever watched much of Eubank Jr., but I've always thought he had a cast iron jaw. Like, he really could take a punch.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I say, you start messing around with the weight, you're messing around with your physiological being, and it's not something to play with at all.
So I've got a comment here. What do you think of Liam Smith hitting Chris Eubanks Jr. with an elbow, which could now be getting appealed against? Well, I don't see the decision being overturned. Have you seen the incident they're talking about?
I didn't see it, but I've heard that it wasn't an elbow, that it looked like it caught him, but on the camera angle. But I'm honestly not sure.
I don't think that he caught him with an elbow personally. Yeah. But moving on from that, just because you've always struck me as a proper boxing purist, which is really, you're the sort of person that keeps me interested in the sport. A lot of stuff turns me off to the sport, John. A lot of the showbiz and the stupid stuff can be annoying, but that side of it's really got its own niche now with this celebrity boxing that seems to just be running away and everything. What do you make of how that's progressed since we last spoke with Jake Paul and Tommy Fury and all this?
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It's not, it's like a sideshow. People can,
Uh-huh.
whatever they want to say. It's like a sideshow. We're turning
Uh-huh.
into wrestling,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not a fan of the direction that it's going.
Uh-huh.
I think it's like, if you want to, if they want to do it, they do it. But
Uh-huh.
charging so much money to watch, that's my problem.
Uh-huh.
Like Floyd Mayweather will fight a guy who's a wrestler or something, right? And they charge like $80. Now people say Muhammad Ali did that. He fought a wrestler, but Muhammad Ali did it for free. They fought on ABC TV. It was free to
Uh-huh.
watch. You didn't have to pay $80.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've never even seen the fight with Conor McGregor. I never paid for it. I never watched it because I knew I never paid to watch him fight the wrestler or the karate guy or whoever he was that he did. I've never seen Jake Paul fight. I've never seen his brother fight because I'm not a sucker. I'm not
Uh-huh.
falling for the nonsense.
Uh-huh.
If they wanna fight, that's fine, but don't charge $80 for that level of competition.
Uh-huh.
I fought guys in the beginning of my career that were easy fights. I had to get used to the game, but we didn't charge $100 for you to watch me. The tickets were $25. So it's different.
Do you think that this situation with Floyd Mayweather could end up in tears with this exhibition circus, that he could end up losing?
I mean, I think he's very careful. He's very calculated, and I mean, some of the guys he's boxed, I think one of the guys, Chinese guy or something, I think he was like
Uh-huh.
a bantamweight. I think he was like a little guy.
Uh-huh. He was, yeah.
So I think Floyd tells you, I'm making money and I'm not taking a risk. People
Uh-huh.
will pay to watch me just because it's me. He's telling you that you're a sucker and you're
Uh-huh.
still buying the fight.
Uh-huh.
I would never, I pride myself on the fact that I've never seen him fight Conor McGregor. I
Uh-huh.
pride myself on that.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
refuse.
Do you think that it should count on his record?
No, that's
No.
insane. You're the best fighter in the world fighting a guy who's never had a pro fight.
Uh-huh.
That shouldn't even be allowed.
Uh-huh.
Like imagine if Errol Spence wanted to fight a guy with no fights. They wouldn't let that happen. The only reason they let Floyd do it is because, one, they know Floyd is not a killer. He's not going to decapitate someone. He's
Uh-huh.
just not, he doesn't have that mentality.
He's a technician.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And two, because he brings in so much money. If he was
Uh-huh.
bringing in $10,000, the commission wouldn't have let it go. But they've got to get their cut. Money rules.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Aye, it certainly does. And I mean, next Mayweather's actually fighting someone from my hometown, a reality star who's done a little bit of MMA. He's fighting Mayweather next month in London, and I suppose it's a massive opportunity for him. But it's like you see, it's one of them.
Yeah.
One thing that I've seen you post a little bit about on social media, which I agree with, but it's an unpopular opinion in today's climate, is women's boxing and the coverage that gets.
Yeah.
I was actually having this conversation myself, right? And I'd been making the point for ages about how much more men compete in boxing than women, and
Right.
why I personally think that, like, a man winning a world title, like, if there's a higher demand for that, they shouldn't artificially, like, force female fights higher up the cards. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I was actually talking about this with my brother, and we looked on BoxRec, and Golovkin is the number one rated middleweight on BoxRec out of
Yep.
over 1,400 fighters.
Right.
Clarissa Shields, who's making a lot of noise and the greatest woman of all time apparently, is the number one on BoxRec out of about 25 fighters.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you could be the best, that's fine, but one of the girls in her weight class, her record is 0-3, and she's ranked like number 12 in the world. She's got no wins. Another girl is 1-0. She's like number 10. and she's 1-0. Like people, it's almost like people are a little bit crazy and they don't realize they're crazy, right? Like if a man was 1-0, he's not, I don't care how good he is, he's not going to be in the top 10 in the world. But there's so few girls that they have to have a girl with one fight in the top 10 in the rankings. So I don't care. I think it's a lot more impressive to be the best out of 1,400 guys than to be the best out of 20 girls. That's just me. I mean, what can I say?
It's definitely the case, and it's not just that it's out of 1,400. It's out of the ranks that they've went through before that in the amateur scene and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's very clear that it's not like people think I'm insulting them, but I'm just stating facts. The talent pool is super, super, super shallow. That's a fact. There's no way anyone on earth can argue with that. The talent pool is super, super, super shallow. It is what it is. And her pretending to be this super champion when you only have 20 girls in the whole world that you could fight. 23, I think it is. 23 girls. And one of them is 0-1. One of them is 2-4, So we're just talking different levels here. And it is what it is sometimes.
Do you know what it is, John? The way things are going with all this celebrity boxing and women's boxing getting a push, I can honestly see a card where you have some sort of women's champion against a celebrity man boxing or something. You know what I mean?
They're gonna mix and match all kinds of crazy stuff. But I'm never gonna be a part of it. I'm never going to watch it. I'm never gonna pay. I refuse.
Lastly, John, I'd just like to ask you about this because I saw you talking about this on another podcast and I found it interesting. Was some of your comments about the International Boxing Hall of Fame, mate, and what's happened with that? Could you just tell us a little bit about that, mate?
Well, they inducted last year Jackie Tonawanda, female fighter. Now, Jackie claimed to be a world champion and a female Muhammad Ali and all this stuff. And they did the research, and she only had one fight as a pro. She was not a champion of anything. And the International Hall of Fame still inducted her, and she's still in there. So, it's like, it would be like if a man somehow was able to lie and you're telling everybody you're a world middleweight champion, and then all of a sudden you find out the guy only had one fight. I don't think he'd still be in the Hall of Fame, but
I tell you what's crazy, anyway. Right? Like you say that, it reminds us, there's a film with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Is it Bloodsport or one of them where he goes abroad and he fights in a karate tournament? And it was based on this bloke's stories who had like all these black belts and stuff, that he went to Japan and had all these fights. And it was all made up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you would never see him getting inducted into like the UFC Hall of Fame for his made up stories.
And the thing is, I always use Marlon Starling as an example. Marlon Starling was two-time world welterweight champion. He beat undefeated fighters like Mark Breland and Tommy Ayers and Jose Barrett. And he beat Lloyd Hunnigan when he only had one loss. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's not even on the ballot. Now, that's wrong. Something is wrong.
That's one hell of a resume, that as well. Like
his resume is insane. And he's not even on the ballot. That should be illegal. They should be fined for not even having him on the ballot. But the people that are picking, they're not qualified. A lot of them. A lot of the people on the board to pick the Hall of Fame are not qualified boxing people. And I'm not insulting them, but it is what it is sometimes.
And it's like you said on another podcast I watched you on, it's not the Hall of Fame, it's the Hall of Greatness.
Right. It's supposed to be for the elite, and it's
Mhm,
not for fame. Like it's a misleading term, the Hall of
mhm,
Fame. It's not for the famous, it's for the best. And
mhm,
they don't do it that way. It's
mhm,
wrong. And it's with a lot of Hall of Fames. I was on
mhm,
the Hall of Fame. I was on the committee for the Hall of Fame of Connecticut.
mhm,
And I saw up close how things were done, and I quit. I
mhm,
dropped myself off the board because I didn't like the way they were doing it. And it was
mhm,
very clear. And I was trying to tell these people, like, we've got to do this right. And people didn't want to listen. People don't want it, they don't care.
mhm. And lastly, about the Hall of Fame, you mentioned about how it's changed location lately, mate, from where it was hosted to like a big casino in
Right,
Vegas, and how it's made it a lot less intimate
right.
for like the fans attending. Can you just elaborate on that, mate? Because I didn't
Well,
catch all of that one.
in Canastota, there was a restaurant, a small restaurant across the street named Graziano's. Everybody knows that's where you hung out, right? Like you could walk in there and it's not a fancy place at all.
Mhm,
It's a dive, but you walk in there on a night and Pernell Whitaker, Mickey Ward, Leon Spinks, Michael Spinks, Marvin Hagler, Marlon Starling, Angelo Dundee. They're all in there just with all the locals, with the local people. Everybody's just hanging out like they're all friends.
mhm,
And they tore the restaurant. The casino bought it and they tore it down and they're moving everything to the casino. So
mhm,
now Graziano's is gone. And it was such an unbelievable place and experience. I'll be honest. Like I used to really look forward to going to the Hall of Fame every year, but I don't even know if I'm going to go this year, to be honest.
mhm. Well, what's changed so much now? Is it just like you don't sort of brush shoulders with everyone attending? Is it just like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you could go to this place every night and hang out with all these five Michael Moore, Michael Spinks, everybody was in
Mhm,
there. And now they moved everything to the casino and it's more
mhm,
formal. It's not personal at all. So they've changed the whole vibe of it because they want everything connected to the casino.
mhm.
And
It's all about money, like you said
yeah,
before.
for
Money
sure,
talk.
for sure. Yeah.
And what do you think about like the likes of Stallone being inducted? Because that got a lot of stick at the time, but I personally didn't think it was so bad that he did get inducted. Because if you're going to induct like boxing promoters and stuff, I think that
Right. Well,
Stallone's brought a lot of people into the sport.
Well, here's what people need to understand, and I think they don't understand this when they get mad. Stallone didn't take the place of a fighter. He
Mhm,
didn't go in place of a boxer. There was no boxer left out because Stallone went in. He's in a totally different category. So I have no problem because many people boxed and started watching boxing because of all the Rocky movies, and that's a fact. So he had an influence on the game, 100%. And even Vinny Pazienza said he started boxing the day after Rocky. He saw Rocky, and that's when he started boxing. So that's one example. If
Funnily
Stallone,
enough, that you said that, right?
yeah,
I read the back of boxing news every week, and they ask fighters how they started boxing, or they used to. And uh, like you said, a lot of people talk about the Rocky franchise, what
yeah,
got them into it.
for
But with
sure.
me,
I
and it's
did.
an answer I've
That
seen a
was
lot of boxers say,
Yeah, that was a
is
big
the
reason.
Contender series. What
Yeah, all
Stallone did,
that.
that actually got me into the sport. That's actually,
Right.
and then
Yeah,
from then on,
yeah.
I was addicted. You know what I mean?
Right. For sure. For sure.
Uh-huh. But thanks for your time today, John. I really, really appreciate that, mate. It's always great to pick your brain about the sport of boxing, and I wish you all the best for Saturday night. You and Artur Beterbiev. Is there anything you'd like to see in closing, mate? Just to anyone watching or anything like that?
Well, no, I just hope everybody tunes in. I think it's going to be a great event. I'm expecting us to come out on top. we're gonna do our best. And but I know, London fans, English fans, they're very supportive of their guy. So I think it's going to be a really electric event, and I hope everybody watches.
Thank you, Jon. Take care, mate. Have a nice day. Thanks.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
All right.